Andre from Buffalo, Minnesota says, our quarterback and the other wide receiver have been best friends since third grade. They hang out every day, they drive to practice together, and on Friday nights it feels like I'm just a decoy. Last week I was open in the end zone and he threw into double team to his friend instead. We lost the game. The coach doesn't say anything because they put up stats together, but the rest of us receivers are checked out. What do I even do in this situation?
What you're dealing with is actually a super common thing that you see. I don't know what level you're playing at, but I'm assuming probably high school. You see this in high school a lot. Usually you don't see this as much in college. But in high school, you learn a lot about the relationship dynamic where friendships are super valuable, brotherhoods. I can think of a specific situation one time where I knew a guy who transferred to a school his senior year, and like bro was an amazing wide receiver, but his senior year stats were not that great because this quarterback and this other wide receiver had been on the same team for a few years or a year or two, and had developed a relationship. And what you deal with in situations like this is the quarterback and that wide receiver have developed a relationship that surpasses football. And when that happens, you're looking at trust elements where the quarterback has essentially learned I can trust my wide receiver. And what's interesting is there's an emotional side um, to the quarterback's position. If you think about it, it's a lot like intense decision making. In fact, it is intense decision making. And what happens when you make intense decisions, you tend to lean on people or lean on people's advice who are close to you, and you just trust them because you've developed a relationship or a friendship or whatever that may look like with them. And so that's what you're dealing with here. It's not that I don't think it's that your quarterback hates you. In fact, I mean, I don't think that it would be that. I think it's that your quarterback has trust for this other wide receiver that surpasses football or that surpasses the field. And so where does that leave you? That leaves you feeling, like you said, in a position where it's like, well, I'm not getting the ball. I'm wide open. He's getting thrown to in double coverage. What do I do? That's a difficult situation, and the answer to that varies drastically depending on the coaching style and your team setup and stuff like that, and also your skill level. I don't know what your skill level is. Sometimes you can feel wide open and you may not be, but assuming you know what you're talking about and you are wide open, these are the steps I would take. Number one, I would 100% let's try to make a connection with the quarterback. And I'm going to try to explain this in a way like, let's not make it fake. Like, I don't want to go up and be fake just so I'm getting the ball. But let's start trying to make an effort to at least make communication with the quarterback. It doesn't look like you got to hang out with them every day, but maybe, I don't know, like just communicate with them, talk to them, hang out with them at practice if you can, like lift with them. Uh, Whatever you can do to kind of get yourself in that circle, because honestly, and I wish the team dynamics were better, but this does come down to a trust thing. And if you are showing up around in that quarterback's environment, especially, he's going to learn that he can trust you just by you making an effort. The other part of that, which is extremely just hand in hand, is just showing up, always being 110%. It's extremely hard. In fact, I would argue it's impossible to ignore a player who's locked in. And if they're locked in at 110%, they see you pushing for that extra rep in the weight room. They see you practicing really hard on the field. You're going all out. They see you showing up early to games. They see you locked in. They see you open all the time. Slowly over time, you're going to see that trust build and build and build and build. And eventually, he's going to start being willing to pass you the ball. But the important thing is, you got to understand when he starts kind of trusting you and trying to throw some balls to you, you got to be ready. Because the worst situation, and you see, like, as funny as this is, you see this a lot in like pickup games or like basketball or something. When there's not that trust developed, like a lot of times they won't pass you the ball. And they eventually, like, you can get so wide open that they have no choice and they'll pass you the ball. And if you mess up, that's pretty detrimental. So what happens here is you've got to be ready. You got to work extremely hard and be ready for when that ball does come to you, because you are establishing that trust. Now, does a drop ball happen? Does a bad pass happen? Yes, absolutely. But let's make sure that you are grinding. That way, when that opportunity does pop up, you're ready. And not only are you ready, you've practiced for it.
If this is something that continually happens, I know that you said the coach doesn't do anything, but who's brought it up to the coach? Has anybody even brought it up to the coach? Because if nobody has, I mean, he could be overlooking it, but maybe he just, I don't know, maybe it's just not a priority in his mind. It needs to be brought to his attention. But yeah, I would definitely speak with the coach if you haven't or if nobody has. And also, in those dynamics, I do understand it. It is kind of like trust. When I played ball in volleyball, there were just certain people that I would want to pass the ball to because I knew it would get over the net. And certain people, we were not a very good team. And if I passed it to a certain person, it may not always get where it needs to be. So you just have those certain people that you trust. So it is one of those things your teammates do have to trust you to, that you know what you're doing.
Yeah. So let's talk about what does talking to the coach look like. One of the most important things I've learned, especially in the last year, is the importance of I statements as opposed to accusation statements. So when we go to the coach, we're not going to go to the coach and be like, he never passes me the ball, putting the blame on him. That's a really good way to get excused and for your reputation as a player to go down because you're not taking responsibility. A super valuable player goes to a coach and says, how can I? What can I do? And putting it back to you. And bro, let me tell you something. That at first is going to be one of the most difficult things in the world to do because it like in your situation, especially if you're like a good wide receiver, it's not your fault. It's not your fault at all. It's the quarterback. Why is he not throwing to you? But that's not what's important because the only person you can control is you. And so when you go to the coach saying, hey, what can I do? How can I be more open? I felt like I was open on this play and show him film. And not in a way that's like, man, the quarterback's trash. He's only throwing to his best friend. But what can I do? And when you go with that humble demeanor of how can I get better? How can I improve? You're so much more likely to be received by your coach and bring that to your coach's attention in a way that's like going to make him want to use you and not take your side, but see what you're talking about because you're taking ownership and you're wanting to improve on your side. You're not wanting to push down the quarterback and make the coach go yell at him for not throwing to you. You're saying, how can I get better? What can I do to make myself seen by the quarterback on these plays? I was open here, and I felt like I was a really good option, but how can I change my mindset maybe to understand the plays dynamic or what my quarterback's seeing more? And that's a super huge element. So remember I statements. We're not going to go and accuse. We're going to go and say, how can I get better? Doing that, building the trust with your quarterback, whatever that may look like, bro. I mean, there's a million different things you can do, even depending on the dynamic of your quarterback. I mean, I would go to the quarterback and be like, hey, man, same thing. What can I do to earn your trust? Or, is there something that I'm doing that is making you feel like I'm not an eligible receiver? What does that look like? But I statements, especially when you go to him directly, I statements.
That gives him a chance to be honest with you, too.
Exactly. Yeah. And he gets it. Exactly. That invites honesty. And so maybe there is something you're doing, and maybe he's not seeing you. Maybe he doesn't feel like, maybe he can say like, hey, bro, like you're open, but a lot of times like you got safeties that could pick the ball off you really quickly. And there's things he may see that you don't see. And that's a good point. There's such value in approaching that with humility and honesty. And he could probably really help you point that as well. So we're going to go to the coaches with honesty and I statements and humility. We're going to go to the quarterback with humility and honesty and all just being a humble demeanor. The other thing you could do too is like, let's not count out the wide receiver that he's built that relationship with. Say, go to the wide receiver, hey man, I see that you and the quarterback have developed such a great relationship with like on the field, you guys play together amazing. What's your secret? I want to establish that same dynamic. That way we can be a double threat. Can you give me any tips? And man, he may brush you off, he may not. He gets to make that decision, but at least you're there. At least you're trying, and at least you're there for the opportunity if it arises. The last thing, and I don't know this is the problem, but just forced visibility. Some wide receivers get wide open, but they're not making any noise. The quarterback has no way to see them because they're not waving their hand. They're not being verbal. They're not screaming. I would imagine that's not the problem here, but let's make sure we're making noise when we're open. And let's just like make a boundary here though. A lot of wide receivers that are super verbal, when the ball doesn't get thrown to them, they throw their hands up and click their tongue, and they're like, "Man, why didn't you throw?" That's not what we're gonna do here. That's once again, that gesture right there is blaming the quarterback. That's not what we're gonna do. We're gonna take ownership on ourselves. And so, yes, can you get angry? Absolutely, it happens. But let's make sure we're verbal, we're showing up, we're hungry, and we're giving 110% wherever we